Thank you, Dean Fox, for that kind introduction. I'm lucky to be standing here today, as are all of you who are sitting in this audience. COVID-19 threw us for a loop this past year, with so many untimely changes and corrections to parts of our lives, including our academic career. Just a couple months ago, we didn't even think we would be able to have this graduation. So I want to thank all of the faculty and staff that managed to put this graduation together in such a short amount of time. I'm sure it was no easy feat. I would also like to welcome the family and friends of the graduating class of 2021. I know you've been stuck with whoever you're attending with, but without you, this graduation wouldn't feel the same. And finally, I would like to welcome and congratulate my fellow College of Science graduating class of 2021. My career at Mason began in the fall of 2015, where I started pursuing a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. I had it ingrained in my mind that it would allow me to aid those in need. However, roughly a year into the program, I found myself questioning whether the field was best suited for me. I realized that my passion, although still focused on providing a service to those in need, did not lie in psychology, but instead in law enforcement. In no way was I ready to abandon the extraordinary world of science, so I started pursuing forensics. The change of scenery was a refreshing one, to say the least. But what made this switch all the more satisfying were the peers and the roster of professors that would, and still do, provide opportunities for me to develop the curiosity that every scientist needs. As I mentioned, serving people has always been my driving force. But when I first started at Mason, I was in no position to do so. As I said, I was a year late to the forensics program. So to try and catch up, I attended an information meeting for forensic internships. When the students presented, they demonstrated their extensive knowledge gained from their internships by using terms like GCMS, ALS, and FTIR. And there it was, an introduction to the world of acronyms and confusion we've all come to love at Mason. I gotta say though, I've never felt more lost and behind than I did that day. I was terrified. Did I join the wrong major? So after everyone presented, I went up and introduced myself to the head of the meeting, Professor Kelly Knight. I was completely honest with her about my current situation. Luckily, she laughed and asked what classes I had taken for forensics, as to which I replied, none. She went on to assure me that by that time next year, I'll know everything and more. Well, she wasn't wrong. The education I received in 1 year was exponentially larger than anything I had ever received before. And I'm sure once everyone here settled into their majors, they felt the same way. I mean, have you ever taken the chance to just look back on all you've accomplished in 1 year's time? I bet you anything, you would surprise yourself. It's funny how far all of us have come in our time here at Mason. But what's important is to never forget where you started. As for me, well, I started off getting denied from every single internship I applied for. Literally every single one. Hopefully, I'm not the only one that can relate to that. I mean, come on. How many times did you hear, we're looking for someone with experience? And then saying to yourself, well, how am I supposed to get any experience if you won't give me a chance? It's disheartening to say the least. But 3 years later, someone was finally willing to give me a chance. Every summer, Professor Knight hires an intern for her STEM outreach program, but the application hadn't been posted yet. Hoping she hadn't foregone the application and hired someone already, I walked into her office, like I often did, and asked about the position. What I didn't expect was for her to hire me on the spot. That summer was fantastic, to say the least. And the experience I gained laid the foundation for my future endeavors, because from there on out, any internship, any position, any job that I applied for, I got. It just takes one moment to change your life. What I learned is that it's not going to be handed to you. You got to fight for it and never stop pursuing your goals. It reminds me of a quote that Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender said. Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you just keep moving, you will come to a better place. And that's especially true once we leave the comfort of Mason. While at Mason, to help students see the light at the end of the tunnel, I took on the roles of a learning assistant during my undergraduate years and a graduate teaching assistant during my graduate years. I loved working with students. I would hold office hours, review sessions, even have students call me when they needed help. Because let's be honest, we've all sat there and pored over our notes trying to make sense of that impossible calculation, that insane mechanism, or maybe even just trying to piece together whatever orgo was. We would spend countless nights in the library sifting through books that eventually became a second home. And don't forget about those sleepless nights wondering what to do next about our baby genetics, our baby flies from genetics. But the best part was always that moment when things started making sense. When the light bulb went off in your head while a smile and a wave of relief washed over you. For me, I saw this firsthand with my students, and I couldn't have been happier. It was never about me. And to all my students that I've had the pleasure to work with, I am so proud of you. And to those I never got the chance to meet, you better believe I'm proud of you too. No major in this college is easy. We all had to make it through those courses that upperclassmen said everyone failed. But I guess that isn't the case, or else you all wouldn't be sitting here today. Speaking of today, since you all are technically still enrolled as students, I wanted to give you one last assignment. All of us are about to go off in different directions. Some of us to graduate school, some to our careers, and some to a well-deserved break. But I want you to think back to my story about Professor Knight and how she was the first one to give me a fighting chance in this field. There will always be students struggling to find opportunities to get that experience that we may have taken for granted. Luckily, we are in a position where we can lend them a hand. We can give them a fighting chance. So if you can, I want you all to help those in need. I mean, is that not what science is all about? Science is pushed to its limits to aid humankind. And even though we may not see the effects we have on society, I can guarantee that you are. As JD said in the final scene of the television show Scrubs, the truth is, you should consider yourself lucky if you even occasionally get to make someone, anyone, feel a little better. Now, please, enjoy your time with those whom you would like to celebrate. And let me kick it off by saying congratulations to my fellow graduates.